History is written by the victors, but the truth is often hidden.
This is Hidden Chapter.
The crisis did not arrive with sirens. It arrived disguised as normalcy inside institutions that had quietly stopped functioning the way the public believed. Inside the Capitol, senior lawmakers gathered in a sealed chamber without press access. Security devices blocked all signals from entering or leaving the room. Senator Robert Kane placed a classified folder on the table and said, "If this becomes public, confidence collapses within hours." Silence followed. The document outlined systemic liquidity fragility across multiple major banks. Stress indicators had crossed emergency thresholds 3 weeks earlier. Across the Potomac, Director Elena Cruz stood inside a restricted intelligence facility. Digital projections displayed coordinated cyber anomalies targeting financial clearinghouses. An analyst spoke carefully. The signatures suggest foreign architecture, but domestic triggers are amplifying impact. Cruz folded her arms and replied, "So we are being pressured from outside while destabilized from within." No one disagreed. In Ohio, factory supervisor Marcus Hill reviewed reduced shift schedules for his workforce. Orders had declined sharply without explanation from corporate leadership. He told his operations manager, "Production numbers don't drop this fast without someone knowing why." The manager avoided eye contact. On Wall Street, trading algorithms reacted to unusual synchronized sell pressure. Senior strategist Daniel Brooks observed patterns that resembled engineered momentum rather than organic fear. He turned to a colleague and whispered, "This is structured panic." The word lingered uncomfortably. Inside the White House Situation Room, military and economic advisors briefed the president. Graphs showed declining public trust metrics intersecting with economic contraction forecasts. The president asked calmly, "Is this a recession or something more structural?" The Treasury Secretary answered, "It is confidence decay." Confidence decay was not a phrase the public understood, but markets understood it instantly. Within 48 hours, regional banks requested emergency liquidity access quietly. Public statements described technical adjustments and seasonal fluctuations. Governor Thomas Reed received a classified notification advising readiness for civil order support. He responded, "On what projected trigger?" The reply read simply, "Multivariable instability event probable." No further clarification was offered. Meanwhile, encrypted communication networks intensified activity across offshore nodes, coordinated disinformation assets, prepared synchronized narrative releases. Television anchors maintained composed expressions while producers adjusted talking points in real time. Behind cameras, executives debated how much truth was safe to reveal. Marcus Hill drove past shuttered storefronts that had once supported his community. He said quietly to himself, "Strong economies do not feel like this." In Washington, Senator Kane confronted Director Cruz privately. "Tell me honestly," he demanded, "are we losing control?" Cruz answered after a long pause, "Control depends on who is still cooperating." That evening, a confidential intelligence memo leaked online. It referenced internal warnings about infrastructure vulnerability and external economic manipulation. Within minutes, markets reacted sharply. Algorithmic trading systems amplified volatility beyond human intervention. Daniel Brooks watched billions evaporate in digital flashes. He muttered, "This is escalation." Simultaneously, coordinated protests emerged in several major cities. The messaging appeared spontaneous but carried identical phrasing and symbolic imagery. Governor Reed activated National Guard units as precautionary reinforcement. He addressed the public saying, "Order will be preserved." Behind the statement, he asked federal officials whether martial contingency plans were being considered. The answer was intentionally ambiguous. At 1:32 a.m., a targeted cyber intrusion struck a major energy grid management node. Backup protocols activated seconds before cascading blackout conditions spread nationally. Director Cruz received confirmation of foreign state-level coding architecture embedded within the malware. Attribution remained diplomatically sensitive. Inside the White House, emergency continuity discussions intensified. A sealed directive labeled Constitutional Stabilization Protocol was reopened for review. The president leaned forward and said, "If we deploy that, perception changes permanently." No one responded immediately. Marcus Hill watched news footage of unrest spreading across downtown districts. He told his brother, "This feels coordinated." His brother replied, Or maybe it has always been this fragile. In the early morning darkness, Senator Kane received a secure call. A senior cabinet member had resigned unexpectedly, citing personal reasons. Kane closed his eyes and whispered, "The fractures are widening." At sunrise, international markets opened with extreme volatility. Foreign media outlets openly questioned American systemic stability. Inside the intelligence facility, Director Cruz issued a classified directive: begin Phase 2 containment. Very few understood what Phase 2 required. Fewer still knew it involved limited information, suppression, and narrative control. As night returned, power fluctuations struck 3 metropolitan regions simultaneously. Officials blamed infrastructure strain due to weather anomalies. Insecure channels. Analysts confirmed coordinated digital triggers. The pattern was undeniable. The president stood alone in the Oval Office after midnight. He looked at the darkened city beyond the glass and said softly, "We built something powerful, but we forgot how to protect trust." At that exact moment, a final encrypted message was transmitted across classified networks. Operation Threshold that advanced beyond containment into strategic recalibration. And for the first time in generations, the survival of the system depended not on enemies abroad, but on decisions made before dawn. The crisis began quietly inside rooms without windows. Senior officials read reports they had hoped never to see. Markets were trembling beneath a surface of televised calm. Senator Robert Kane understood the numbers before anyone spoke. Director Elena Cruz understood the intent behind them. The threat was not sudden, but carefully engineered. Foreign capital had been moving in unusual patterns for months. Domestic executives had quietly repositioned their assets. Pension funds were exposed beyond acceptable thresholds. Public trust was eroding faster than economic data revealed. The president demanded clarity from his advisors. The advisors offered probabilities instead of answers. In Ohio, Marcus Hill lost his factory job without warning. He sensed the collapse was larger than his paycheck. On Wall Street, Daniel Brooks watched synchronized sell orders cascade. He recognized design where others saw panic. Intelligence servers detected coordinated cyber probes. The probes targeted banking infrastructure and energy grids. Social media amplified outrage with unnatural precision. Protests formed in cities that rarely moved in unison. Governor Thomas Reed activated National Guard units as precaution. He feared hesitation more than criticism. Inside a hidden chamber, the Strategic Preservation Council convened. Their existence was unknown to the public. Operation Threshold lay open on the steel table. It authorized extraordinary stabilization powers. Some members warned of constitutional danger. Others warned of national collapse. A confidential memo leaked before dawn. Markets reacted with historic volatility. Regional banks requested emergency liquidity in silence. Retirement accounts flickered with alarming losses. Marcus Hill watched neighbors argue in the street. He realized division had become weaponized. Director Cruz traced digital signatures across continents. The patterns revealed collaboration between foreign operatives and domestic elites. Senator Kane called the revelation treasonous. The president called it systemic corruption. Arrest warrants were drafted under sealed authority. A senior cabinet member betrayed the operation. Targets fled using prearranged international clearances. Cruz understood the leak came from inside. Trust inside government fractured visibly. Cyber attacks escalated against regional financial hubs. 2 cities experienced temporary transaction blackouts. Panic spread faster than official statements. Military radar misread interference as potential aggression. 12 tense minutes. Defensive forces prepared. The false alarm exposed terrifying fragility. The president faced the defining decision of his term. Approving full exposure risked diplomatic crises. Rejecting action guaranteed silent consolidation of power. He chose exposure. International allies received encrypted coordination requests. Asset freezes executed across multiple jurisdictions simultaneously. Private jets were legally intercepted offshore accounts locked without warning. News networks struggled to process unfolding revelations. Evidence of engineered economic sabotage became public. Citizens learned their hardship had been monetized. Marcus Hill watched the broadcast in disbelief. Daniel Brooks testified before emergency congressional hearings. Director Cruz presented classified findings in closed session. Senator Kane demanded sweeping reform legislation. The betrayed cabinet member resigned under investigation. Protests shifted from chaos to accountability demands. Markets plunged briefly before stabilizing under transparency. Emergency powers were reviewed line by line. Operation Threshold began gradual deactivation. International leaders condemned the consortium publicly. The transnational architects of collapse faced indictment. Court proceedings exposed years of calculated manipulation. Financial derivatives once hidden became evidence exhibits. Communities demanded safeguards against future exploitation. Governors coordinated bipartisan economic stabilization packages. The president addressed the nation with unusual candor. He admitted institutions had nearly failed. He promised structural reform over symbolic reassurance. Marcus Hill returned to the factory months later. New ownership operated under stricter oversight. Daniel Brooks helped draft market integrity safeguards. Director Cruz archived the operation under 50 years. Senator Kane pushed transparency laws through narrow margins. Public discourse slowly regained a measured tone. Trust did not return instantly. Accountability rebuilt it gradually. The crisis revealed vulnerability beneath power. It also revealed courage within institutions. Division had nearly broken the system. Exposure ultimately strengthened it. The skyline lights continued shining at night. Citizens understood they were not invincible. Foreign adversaries recalculated future strategies. Corporate boardrooms reconsidered secret alliances. Intelligence agencies expanded defensive coordination. Economic safeguards became permanent fixtures. Marcus Hill told his brother lessons had been paid for dearly. Director Cruz accepted that vigilance must outlive victory. The president left office knowing collapse had been narrowly avoided. History recorded that transparency defeated manipulation when the choice finally mattered.